Where are you at as far as having a meditation practice is concerned? You know, I say repeatedly that this class is a meditation class, and the purpose of the class is for you to establish a meditation practice, which means to practice at least 30 minutes a day, and then practice informally between the 30-minute practices. So you want to take a look and see where you're at in regard to that. Do you have a meditation practice? And if you do have a meditation practice and you're practicing 30 minutes a day, are you practicing informally between the 30-minute practices? And if you are practicing informally, are you aware of how often you're actually doing it or not? And if you are aware of how often you're doing it, what can you do to increase the frequency of the informal practice that you're doing every single day? These are the kinds of things that you should be taking a look at. And if you don't have a practice or you don't have an informal practice, what's going on? What's determining you? This is where most people fail in establishing a meditation practice, is that they are not clear about what's determining them, what's determining whether you have a practice or not, what's determining whether you do it every single day or not. It has to boil down to that you either are aware of your mind, you're aware of the mental activity, and you're aware of the tricks that the mind plays in terms of bringing up thoughts like, I'm too busy to practice, or bringing up thoughts like, I'm too upset to practice, or I'm too tired to practice, or you simply forget to practice because the mind presents you with other things and keeps your mental activity busy, right? So it doesn't even come up to practice. The thing that causes people to fail in a practice, establishing a practice of meditation, is the activity of their mind. You've got to develop an ability to be aware of mental activity and to be aware of your emotions, and to understand that there is a good percentage of that activity and a good percentage of those emotional reactions that cause nothing but suffering, have no practical value. All of the thoughts that occur in your mind about you, negative thoughts about yourself, negative thoughts about other people, negative thoughts about life, negative thoughts about politics, all of these activities of the mind present us with suffering. And one of the things that happens in the mental state is we have these expectations. And they're unwitting. Most people's expectations are unwitting expectations, meaning that you're not conscious of these expectations. For example, if you wake up in the morning and it's a rainy day and you feel a negative experience, right? You may not be aware of the fact that you have an expectation for the weather to be a particular way. That's why it's disturbing when it's not that way. Same thing with your relationships with other people. One of the reasons that people have difficulty getting along and have conflict and get divorces and have breakups and so forth is because they have expectations of one another, and when those expectations aren't met, they get upset. They get upset, and the voice in their head tells them this other person is disrespecting me, or this other person doesn't love me. And therefore I should do something about it. I should change something. I should tell them about it. I should let them know that they're not meeting my needs, that they're failing in meeting my expectations of them. So unfulfilled expectations is one of the sources of upset. Another source of upset is thwarted intentions. You intend for things to be a certain way and they're not that way. Holidays are a good example of that. Christmas is a perfect example of that. Everybody has these intentions about Christmas that most of the time aren't met. And then there's this kind of letting down type of feeling. So one of the things that you can do to counteract your mental activity as far as the expectations is concerned is to create expectations that are realistic. Create expectations that are real. Intentionally, consciously create expectations that are realistic. Expect that you're going to get sick. Expect that you're going to get old. Expect that you're going to die. How many people expect those things? Most people put those things out of their mind. They don't want to think about it. And then when it happens, it's very disturbing. Expect that things change all the time. Expect that life is unpredictable. Expect the people in your life to be different than you. If you expect the people in your life to be different than you, when they are different from you, you won't be upset. If you have realistic expectations about life that are based on reality instead of based on what you're afraid of or what you desire, then when these inevitables occur, they don't have the impact. If you expect to get sick, when you get sick, it's not upsetting because you knew you were going to get sick. You knew you were going to get old. You knew you were going to die. You know, death is one of those things that people live life as if death isn't going to happen, you know? How many people are living life with a realistic expectation about their immortality? That I expect to die, and I don't know when, so I expect it to happen any time, because it could happen any time. Okay? And if your expectations are realistic, when it does happen, it doesn't throw you a curve, it doesn't knock you off your feet. This is one of the reasons that my Zen teacher keeps bringing this up in his talks, in terms of how people are suffering from shock. And people are traumatized. People are traumatized by natural things. People are traumatized by natural events. Somebody dies, that's a natural event. That's not the potential for a traumatic event, unless you've been ignoring death as a reality. Then when it happens, it has a shock to it. You know, when people get older, you know, when you get to be in your 70s, you should expect to die. You know, a lot of people would say, well, that's a cruel thing to say. That's an insensitive thing to say. No, that's a realistic thing to say. When you're in your 70s, you should be preparing for your death. You should be actively giving attention to the reality that's going to occur at some time in the not that distant future, where your body will get sick and you will die. This is going to happen. And so if you are in your 70s or you are in a relationship and both you and your partner are in your 70s or you're in your 80s, right? You should be allowing yourself to be aware that one of the two of you is going to die soon. So when it happens, you won't be traumatized. And when it happens, if you're really realistic, if you really allow yourself to make contact with the truth, then death is as natural as birth. So when it happens, it's something that, you know, you take the opportunity to be with whoever it is that's dying and allow them to just relax. Allow them to accept that this is the way life ends. You die. So, I'm recommending that you look and see what unrealistic expectations do you have of yourself. You know, I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and this client thought that they had made a mistake at work. and they thought that they might get some negative consequences for having made this mistake at work. Right? And they were really upset about it, concerned about it. And I'm sure we have all had experiences like that in your life where you did something that didn't work and you knew you did it and there's going to be consequences and you were like upset about the consequences. It might be something that happened on your job. It might be something that happened in your relationship, whatever the case may be, right? And when I was talking to this person that had this experience of having made this mistake and they were really upset about what might happen because of that, I asked the person a question. I said, do you expect yourself never to make mistakes? Is that a realistic expectation, that you will never make mistakes? Is it the case that any human being exists that never makes mistakes? And if you let go of that, if you allow yourself to be realistic about yourself as a human being, then you're giving yourself permission to make mistakes. See, one of the problems with that is that in the culture that we live in, there are a lot of human beings that take advantage of the situation when somebody makes a mistake, right? To try and make a big deal out of that and make them look bad or make them wrong or punish them somehow. In reality, that's masochism. That's masochism, or that's sadism to behave that way, and it's masochism to behave that way toward yourself. You are, as a human being, you are a mistake-making creature. That's the truth, right? And if you can let yourself be clear about that, when you make a mistake, you expect to make mistakes, so it's not a shock. And when you make a mistake, you allow yourself to take responsibility for having made the mistake, and you take whatever actions you can take to clean it up if there's anything that needs to be cleaned up or anything that needs to be changed. And that's what you do. That's realistic. And you don't have to be upset about it. You don't have to feel like you're, an inadequate human being. Personalities inherently suffer from insecurity and inadequacy. Personalities inherently suffer from insecurity and inadequacy. In other words, personalities have this sense that their capabilities are limited. And this sense that the capabilities are limited is troubling. It's troubling to people. When in reality, if you experience your true nature, you understand that your true nature is unlimited, and your true nature doesn't make mistakes. This is just the characteristics of a temporary personality that's going to be around for 70, 80, or 90 years if you're lucky. And during this temporary situation, if you understand the truth and you understand the possibility, during this temporary situation, your job is to pay attention to things in such a way where it's possible for you to experience a state of well-being, where you can enjoy being alive. If there's a purpose to human life, the obvious purpose to human life is to enjoy the fact that you exist for this brief period of time. Doesn't that make sense? Why am I here? You're here to be here. Why am I here? You're here to be here and enjoy the miracle of your existence. Can you see how lost we are when it comes to that? How many people can experience their life as an opportunity to enjoy their existence? We get so caught up into the details of life. We get so caught up into the ever-changing realities of life, right, that we can't relax and enjoy ourselves. We're always anticipating the future. We're always remembering the past and anticipating the future. And this anticipation of the future, for most human beings, is a negative experience. Right? There's a lot of things that we're concerned about that might happen in the future. So the way that most people relate to the future is with apprehension. Is it going to be okay? What's going to happen? And all the thinking about whether it's going to be okay and what's going to happen has no value, because the answer is you simply don't know. what's going to happen. There's certain things you do know. You're going to get old, sick, and die if you're fortunate enough to get old, sick, and die. Other than that, you have no idea what's going to happen. So you can expect anything. That's the only realistic expectation, is to expect anything, to expect whatever happens to happen. But we don't usually allow ourselves to look at things like that. Why? Because we're tuned in to the voice in the head, and the voice in the head is running a survival operation, right? So it's always apprehensive about everything all the time, because everything has the potential to be threatening. Yeah? So living your life identified with the voice in the head guarantees suffering, guarantees suffering. So we're practicing meditation to do what? To discover that there is an awareness that is always there in existence, that is the natural state, and it is our true nature. And only if we are able to experience that as reality and as what we actually are, will we be happy. Only if. And this is why you're practicing meditation, and this is why you have to do it every single day. Because the practice of being a human being without exposure to the truth and the practices to get yourself free from the mental activity, the exposure to being a human being is a practice. It's a practice. Anything you do repeatedly over and over again is a practice, right? Okay? And if you repeatedly over and over again find yourself giving your attention to the voice in your head and your emotional states, then that becomes a practice. And when you're doing that, you're practicing identifying yourself with the voice in your head that is actually not you. It's the voice of a program playing in your mind that has the purpose to get you to survive. And that program is going to fail. It's been failing and it's going to fail because it's unrealistic. It doesn't include your mortality. It doesn't include the truth about the way things are. So you could say that the practice of meditation is a practice of waking up to the way it is, waking up to the way things are, and training yourself to be related to reality, training yourself to be related to life the way life is, intentionally training yourself to be related to life the way life is, so that when the things happen in life that are inevitable, you can maintain your composure. You can stay grounded. You don't have to become traumatized. You can experience grief if somebody that you're close to passes away, but that experience will be an experience that's temporary. It'll eventually stop, and you'll go on living your life. Yeah. A lot of people, when somebody close to them passes away, they never recover. They never recover. That's unrealistic. That's unhealthy, right? So you have to start thinking about these things now. Don't wait until they happen. Then it's too late. Think about reality now. Think about the fact that you don't have control. Think about the fact that things are changing all the time, including your personality, including your body, and including everything that's happening in the world. So we don't know from one day, from 1 minute to the next, what's going to happen. And the only way you can live happy in that circumstance, right, is to experience your true nature, because your true nature does not live in time and it doesn't have form. Therefore, what's happening doesn't affect it. But you can't have that experience without doing the practice and dealing with your mind and dealing with the fact that your mind doesn't want to do the practice. That's what you're looking to establish when you establish a meditation practice, is you're looking to establish a condition in which the practice is understood to you to be essential to your well-being. And you will be challenged.